Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, you are stepping into my shoes as a veteran dermatologist for clinical rotation. We're not just looking at hands and nails as cosmetic canvases today. No, we're going to study them for what they really are: profound mechanical instruments and incredibly sensitive indicators of your internal health. By the time we finish up, you'll really understand the intricate biology of the hand, and much more importantly, you'll know exactly how to identify serious medical red flags the second they walk through your door. Here is our clinical syllabus for today's session. We're going to kick things off with hand anatomy and mechanics, then look at hand shapes and their influencing factors. After that, we'll dive right into the nail unit tutorial, explore nutrition and biological growth, and wrap up with the most crucial part of your training: red flags and referrals. All right, let's jump right into section 1, hand anatomy and mechanics. It's absolutely wild to think about, but the exact mechanical components found in our hands are literally what made human advancement possible. Think about it. These are the structures that let us paint ancient cave drawings, build the pyramids, and perform life-saving modern medical procedures. And the sheer concentration of bones here? It's remarkable. The entire human body only has 206 bones in total, and exactly 54 of them are packed right into your two hands. That's 27 bones per hand. They break down into 3 groups. First, we've got the 8 carpal bones forming the wrist. These sit in 2 rows and basically act like an incredibly elastic ball-bearing system to give you strength and flexibility. Then we move to the 5 metacarpals, those thin, elongated bones that make up the palm. And finally, extending out from the palm are the 14 phalanges, which are the bones of your fingers. But hey, bones can't move themselves, right? To actually perform all those precise movements, the hand relies heavily on the forearm. In fact, out of the 20 muscles in your forearm, no less than 15 are specifically dedicated to animating your hand and fingers. Let's quickly define the 4 key muscle functions pulling the strings here. A flexor muscle is what draws your hand closed into a tight fist. Extensors do the exact opposite. They straighten out your wrist, hand, and fingers into a flat line. Adductor muscles are responsible for drawing a body part inward toward the central median line, while abductors do the reverse, drawing parts away from that median line. Moving right along to section 2, hand shapes and influencing factors. So what actually determines the morphology, the unique shape and texture of a patient's hand? It generally comes down to 2 categories: physical and glandular determinants. On the physical side, it's pretty straightforward. It's determined by the skeletal structure, the size of the muscles, and the thickness of the fatty subcutaneous layer. But the glandular or hormonal side, that is where it gets clinically fascinating. For example, if a patient is dealing with an underactive thyroid, their hands might actually appear small, wide, and fatty, and they'll likely feel noticeably cold to the touch. On the flip side, an overactive thyroid tends to produce hands that are long, narrow, very bony, and distinctly warm. And this brings up a great point about aesthetic nail care, because those different shapes directly dictate how you should style the nails. It's all about creating visual harmony by matching the nail to the hand's natural architecture. So if a patient has long, thin hands, you want to perfectly match that with long, thin, almond-shaped nails. But if the hands are shorter, you'll want to go with short, square, round, or even trapezoidal nail proportions. Let's get a little more microscopic now. In section 3, the nail unit tutorial. Now, the nail plate, which is that hard, translucent part you actually paint or trim, is entirely composed of dead cells. But literally everything around and underneath it is very much alive. Think about the base of the nail, tucked underneath that skin fold. That area is called the matrix, and it's the actively growing tissue generating the nail. It's packed with nerves, lymph, and blood vessels. Peeking just past the skin line is the lunula, that little half-moon shape you can usually see. Right on top of that, overlapping the lunula, is the eponychium, which is just the living extension of the cuticle. From there, the nail plate travels all the way down the nail bed until it hits the free edge, extending right past the tip of the finger. Which brings us right into section 4, nutrition and biological growth. Now, I want to really emphasize the biological timeline here because it's crucial. Nail growth is surprisingly consistent. In a normal adult, it averages about 1/4 of an inch per month. Because it grows at that specific rate, it takes exactly 128 days on average for a nail to travel its entire life cycle. 128 days. That's from being born deep in the matrix all the way to reaching the free edge. Just keep in mind, this does slow down a bit as we age. Oh, and fun fact, the growth rate actually varies by finger. The middle finger grows the fastest and the thumb is the slowest. So during those 128 days, what exactly is the body building? Well, the nail is mostly made of hard keratin, which is a protein with a sulfur base. For a nail to be healthy, resilient, and fight off infection, it needs a highly precise 3.2% sulfur concentration. It's literally a chemical formula. Specific nutrients are your fundamental building blocks here. Calcium is completely indispensable for growth and strength, while zinc provides overall vitality. Without enough meat proteins and these essential trace minerals in your diet, the nail just can't form correctly, and that's when you start seeing real brittleness and dryness. And now for the absolute most critical part of this explainer. Section 5, Red Flags and Referrals. As a professional, you absolutely have to know how to spot the difference between a cosmetic issue and a medical emergency. You have to know when to stop your service and refer them to a doctor. Take warts and psoriasis, for example, two totally different, very serious conditions. A wart is a cutaneous outgrowth of the skin's horny layer caused by a highly contagious virus. It's hard, it spreads, and it absolutely requires gloves and an immediate medical referral. Psoriasis, on the other hand, is a chronic, non-contagious autoimmune issue. It causes thickened, red, inflamed patches with these silvery scales. When psoriasis hits the nails, you'll see pitting, really abnormal growth, crumbling, and even separation from the nail bed, a condition called onycholysis. Both of these mean the patient needs a physician, not a cosmetic fix. Now, contrast those medical red flags with common thick calluses. To a novice, a really thick callus might look alarming, but these are actually completely benign. All that's happening is the horny layer of the skin is thickening up as a biological defense mechanism against repeated mechanical friction. It's just the body protecting itself. So, unlike warts or psoriasis, this is something a cosmetic professional can safely work with. But listen carefully, because here is your ultimate do not ignore heuristic rule of thumb. If you ever observe green, yellow, brown, or black stains that start from the free edge and spread toward the cuticle, or if they look trapped underneath the nail plate itself, you need to immediately suspect onychomycosis, which is nail fungus, or a bacterial mold. If you spot those colors, you are dealing with a highly contagious parasite, and you have to follow a strict, non-negotiable clinical protocol. Step 1, identify that discoloration. Step 2, stop the service immediately. Step 3, and this is absolutely vital, throw away all porous tools you were using. Any abrasives, any orange wood sticks. If it can't be sterilized, it goes in the trash. Step 4, rigorously sanitize and sterilize all your metal implements, linens, and tabletop surfaces. And Step 5, refer that patient to a physician right away. The only way to truly confirm a fungus is with a proper medical culture test. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. We looked at the mechanical genius of your 54 hand bones, the biological factory that is the 128-day nail matrix, and those absolutely critical red flags that separate a simple cosmetic treatment from clinical medicine. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a quick thought. Look down at your own hands right now. Seriously, take a look. If the nail truly is the window into your internal health, your nutrition, and your biological balance, what are your hands currently telling you?